Hi everybody, Nate here at WePrintWraps. Today I'm going to be showing you how to set up a file for cut contour. Now a lot of people are unsure of how to exactly set up a file that is going to be printed in contour cut, but I'm going to be showing you that it's really not that difficult. We're going to be going through just a few steps here, and I'm also going to be addressing some of the more common issues that we see with customer provided contour cut files. So let's go ahead and take a look. So as you can see on my screen here, we have a very simple design set up for a van. Now we're going to assume that this van is white, and rather than fully wrapping this, we're just going to contour cut out these logos and a little bit of text that you see here. Now, if you're unsure what I'm talking about when I say cut contour, we are talking about cutting to a specialty shape. So for instance, this logo here, if we were going to just install this logo, we wouldn't want a big white square. No, we would want it to be cut out to the shape of this logo. So kind of following this dark blue outline that you see here to cut out the silhouette of the logo. Same thing with the text here. We wouldn't want a big white rectangle. No, we want the numbers and the letters to be cut out to be applied as a decal. And that's what we're referring to when we talk about cut contour or contour cutting. And this actually has a lot of different names. People will call it a lot of different things. Some people will say kiss cutting. Some people will say plotted graphics, spot graphics, cut graphics, decal kits or decal sets. They're all really, for the most part, pretty interchangeable. So usually people are referring to the same thing with all these different terms. But to do this, it does require a little bit of a special setup with our artwork here. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So we're going to first be looking at an example here that's just with one of these logos so that I can walk you through how to set up this cut line and all the different steps that we need to get this ready for contour cutting. And then after that, I'm going to show you how to set up an entire nested contour cut file. So this file here, it's one file, but it contains all of the graphics that are needed to print out this entire design here on this template. So you can see I have all three of the large logos, all three sets of text. And I'm going to show you that it's really no harder to set this up than it is just to set this up by itself. And really, by the time we're done, you'll see that this is not a very difficult process. It's something that a lot of people are very unsure of how to do. But once I show you how it's done, you'll see that it's really not that difficult and anybody can do it. So, okay, let me go ahead and close down these files here because we're going to start from scratch and I'm going to show you how I created those files. So I have my template file here done. I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to come back to our template here and I'm just going to copy and paste one of these logos over into our new file here. Okay, so first thing we want to do is make sure that we have three separate layers set up. So I'm going to open up my layers window here. By default, you'll just have layer one. I'm going to click and drag this down to this little plus button here, and that will duplicate the layer. And I'm going to do it one more time to make a third layer. So now I have three identical layers. They're all duplicates of each other. But I'm going to rename these layers just to make it easier to follow. So this top layer, I'm going to name cut line. The next layer, I'm going to name artwork. Next layer we'll call bleed. And so the artwork layer, we're not going to do anything to the artwork layer. That is just the artwork as it's supposed to look. That's what the finished thing is supposed to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that layer so we don't accidentally change it. Our bleed layer, we are going to make edits to it, but not yet. So in the meantime, I'm going to hide that layer as well so that we don't accidentally make any changes to it. Now what we're looking at is just this cut line layer on top. And again, we are working with the top layer, so whether or not you name your layers, make sure that you're working with your top layer here. So we want to select everything on this layer, and this is going to be the layer that creates the cut line. Now the cut line is what tells the plotter what shape to cut out. So we need, the shape that we want to cut out is really just the outer silhouette of this logo. So we would just want the plotter to follow this outer silhouette shape. So to do that, like I said, we're going to select everything on that layer. Then we're going to use our Pathfinder window. And the very first option here on Pathfinder is called Unite. If you click on that, you can see that it merges everything into this overall shape. So we have a nice silhouette here of our logo. And this shape right here that you see is the shape that we want the plotter to cut out of the vinyl. But we do need to go through a few more steps before this is ready to print and send to the plotter. So first off, we want this shape to have a stroke. Right now it has a fill on it. We want it to be a stroke instead. So I'm going to come over here to the left and I'm going to click this button that says Swap Fill and Stroke. So now it's applied this as a stroke and it has no fill on it, which is good. But the color for the stroke, right now it's using a red color. This is just a red color that was in the artwork. We need to change the stroke color and we actually need to set it up a very specific way. We need to create a new swatch. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So come over to your swatches panel. If you don't have this open, you can find it under Window here on the top and go to swatches. And then we want to make sure that we have our stroke selected. And then what we're going to do is create a new swatch. So over here on the bottom right hand side of our swatch window, click this plus button that says New Swatch. And it's going to bring up this menu here. And we actually need to edit every one of these fields in here. And I'm going to go through this. It's going to seem a little bit complicated. There is a lot of detail here, but none of it's difficult. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. And the great thing is once we have this done, you can save this, and I'll show you how to save this as a preset so that you never have to do these steps again. So you're going to follow along with me on this video. I'll walk you through it step by step, and then you're never going to have to do this part of the process again. So again, this will be really easy moving forward. So let's go ahead and go through this swatch menu. So our first field here is called Swatch Name. Now we do need to name this a very specific name. It needs to be named Cut Contour. And the way we type it is very important. It does have to be typed this exact way, sort of like when you type in a password, it's case sensitive and everything like that. So we want Cut Contour. As you can see, both of the C's are capitalized, all the other letters are lowercase, and there's no space in between the two words. So again, that's capital C, lowercase ut, and then without a space, it's a capital C again, then lowercase ontour. Okay, and then we're going to move on to the next field here, color type. If you click this drop-down menu, there's only two options. We want to click on spot color. And then below that, our next field that we can edit is going to be this color mode option. Now mine is defaulted to CMYK. Yours might say something different, but whatever it does say, click on that drop-down menu and make sure you select CMYK. So now once you do that, it'll show you these different fields for the CMYK values. And we want 100% magenta and 0% on everything else. So going down the line here, we're going to highlight the cyan box, make sure that says 0. I'm going to click tab to move to the next box, and that one needs to say 100%. That is the magenta field. I'm going to click tab to go to our next field here. This is the yellow field. We want 0. Click tab again, and for our K value or black value, we also want 0. So once we're done, we want it to look exactly like this. So again, swatch name is Cut Contour, capital C's, no space in between. Color type is spot color. Color mode is CMYK. And then our values for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black are all zeros except for 100% magenta. And lastly, what we're going to do is click this button that says Add to my library. If you use the library feature a lot, you might have multiple libraries set up under this tab here. I already know that this is the library I want it to save to. If you've never used the library feature before, then just go ahead and leave it how it is, because it's going to just save it to your default library. So take a good look at this menu, make sure it looks exactly the same on your screen, and then we're going to click OK. So now it has made this, this cut line, the stroke on this cut line is now that swatch that we set up here. You can see it in our swatch menu. It's highlighted right now. If you hover over it, it shows the name that we gave to it. And as you can see, it looks like 100% magenta. But even more importantly, because we had that Add to Library checkbox selected, now it's going to show in our libraries window. And so when I saved it, it actually opened up my libraries window by default here. If you don't see the libraries window on your screen, you can find it under window here on top, go to libraries, and then this will pop up for you. This here is that swatch that we just created. I'm gonna go ahead and move it up here to the top just so I can find it easily again. But now this is part of your account, your Adobe account. So you can access this on any computer that you use that is signed into the same Adobe account. And now, rather than having to fill in this box every time we're setting up a cut contour file, now you have all those settings saved right here. So you can essentially, if you're making a new file here, apply that swatch to anything. So if I had a new file here and I was just making a box here, I want this to be cut contour, I can just click it in this library and it applies it. And then if I double click on it here, you can see it saved all of those settings that we did. So you never need to go through that process again. Now you have it saved. You essentially never need to do it again unless you're working on a new computer or on a different Adobe account or something like that. But, so now we have a cut line set up. So what's next? Well, I'm going to go ahead and lock this layer so that we don't actually accidentally change it. But I like to leave it visible so I can still see. I'm going to turn the artwork layer back on so I can see it, but I'm going to lock it again so we don't accidentally change it. And as you can see, that cut line path that we made follows this silhouette of the logo and is exactly where we want it to cut. Now we just need to make a bleed. So we're going to turn on our bleed layer again. Again, we have both our cut line layer and our artwork layer locked, so we're not going to accidentally edit those. When we make selections on this, we're only editing the bleed layer. So I'm going to use my selection tool. I'm going to click and drag to select everything. Again, it's only selecting the bleed layer because that's the only layer unlocked. And to make a bleed, essentially what a bleed is we want the color to extend a little bit past the cut line. That way you don't get a white edge showing along the cut line when the vinyl is finished. So we recommend doing a 1/4 inch bleed along any cut lines. So the way we're going to do that is have everything selected. We're then going to come up here to Object, would come down to Path, and then use the Offset Path option. And I'm working at 1/10 scale, so normally we would do a 1/4 inch as 0.25 inches, but since I'm at 1/10 scale, that would make it 0.025 inches. And then I would click OK. And now we have a bleed. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see what it did. As you can see, it extended this color a little bit past our cut line there. So without the bleed, it was just like that. Now we've added the bleed so it goes a little bit further. And now this prevents any possibility of a white edge showing along this cut line when the vinyl is plotted and then weeded. And there you go. That is your completed cut contour file. The last step that I would probably do is just resize the artboard to come down to the dimensions of the artwork. And then I would just go ahead and save this as a PDF. Let's see here. Let me find where I'm saving these. Okay, so I would just create a new folder, call this print files, and then this is going to be logo, cut contour, and since I know I'm working at 10% at 1/10 scale, I'm going to just write in 10% at the end of the file name there. That way it makes it easy for me to remember. I usually just use Illustrator default. You can use high quality print preset as well. Click save, and then you have a completed print file that looks like this. And so that is a print ready file, ready for cut contour for this logo. Okay, so now we need to apply the same steps, but to everything here, right? That was just for one logo, but obviously, as you can see here, there's more than one logo. We actually have 3 logos, and the one for the rear is sized a little bit differently, and then we have 3 sets of text. So we want to do this to all these files, but it would be very time consuming to create a separate file for each logo, a separate file for each set of text. So we want to kind of simplify all this and save it all into one file. And we can do that, and it's really no more difficult than setting up just the individual file like this was. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to close down this individual cut contour file. I'm going to create a new file. And in this one, we're going to group everything together. This is what's called nesting artwork. It's where you take all your different pieces of your artwork and nest it all together or group it together on a printable file, one that's sized and how it's going to print and everything like that. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and let's select everything on this cut contour layer. I like to keep my designs with organized layers here, so I know that everything here that you see on this design is on my cut contour layer. So I'm just going to select that entire layer, and then I'm going to copy and paste it over into this new file. And so as you can see, it's all kind of scattered about, but again, what we're doing when we say nesting is we're going to kind of group all these together so that they fit on one compact sheet, on one print sheet. So to do that, I usually like to set up an artboard that is going to be my print size. Now I don't know exactly what print size I'm going to need, so I'm going to guess. Let's start out by making it 60 inches wide. Again, I'm at 10th scale, so I'm just going to put 6, but that equals 60 inches real size. And then we do have a maximum width, print width, when it comes to cut contour, and that is 51.5 inches. So I'm going to make this artboard 51.5 inches high. And I know that that is my maximum width. So already I can tell that I'm going to need to adjust this artboard size, but at least it gives me an idea as to how these logos can fit together on a printable size. So I can see that the logos will fit within that 51.5 inches high. So I can put this logo right in the middle. I can put the next one, the other one right next to it. And I'm just using my align tools up here on the top. Select align to artboard. And then I'm going to do vertical align center. So I know that it's fitting within that 51.5 inches that I have set up. And then I'm gonna just kind of squeeze them together, leave a little bit of breathing room between there, enough for the bleed that we're going to have to add. But you can get them pretty close. And the less space they take up, the less square footage it's going to cost you when you're getting this printed. Then this other one that was from the rear is a little bit smaller. So let me adjust this artboard so we can get a clearer picture of the space that we have left on our sheet here. So I'm going to bring this artboard out to here. I'm going to bring it out to here. This doesn't have to be real precise. I'm just using this as a guide. So now I can see that I have some extra space down here that's not being used. So maybe we can put our text down there, nest it in there. Okay, I can fit those two groups of text like that, and I can fit this third one right there. Okay, so now it has all fit on this artboard. And so now we have this entire design all set up on just one printable sheet. So now if you were to get this printed, you only have to send over one file. You've eliminated a lot of waste that would happen from printing these all separately because you've utilized this negative space in between these logos to fit your text in there as well, or any smaller graphics that you might have. And then now we would just need to set this up for cut contour the way we did on that individual logo. And it's really just the same process that we're going to follow. The only thing I want to do first is right now, this text here is still editable text. It's still like reading as a font, which we don't want. We want this to just be vector shape. So what we can do is select all. I'm pressing Control A to select all. On a Mac, it'd be Command A. And then I'm going to come up here to Type, and I'm going to select this option here that says Create Outlines. And when you do that, you can see that it changes this from an editable font or a type layer, and it changes it just into vector shapes, which is exactly what we want, because that is how the plotter is going to read this, just as vector shapes. So now let's go to our layers panel and follow the steps that we did before. So we have one layer here. I'm going to click and drag this down to the plus sign to duplicate it. I'm going to click and drag one more time, so I have a total of 3 layers. I'm going to rename these layers. So we did cut line, next layer is artwork, and below that we have bleed. So I'm going to hide the artwork layer, hide the bleed layer, so we're only looking at our cut line layer. I'm going to select everything on that layer, so I just click over here to the right, and it shows that little square there. That means everything on that layer is selected. I'm then going to go to my Pathfinder window, and I'm going to select the first option here that says Unite. And now, as you can see, it's made silhouettes of all of these shapes, including the text there as well. This time it used the light blue color that was in the artwork rather than before when it used the red. That doesn't matter because, again, we're going to be changing this color to our cut contour swatch that we made earlier. Now remember that we need to change this from a fill to a stroke. So I'm going to come over here to the left and click this button that says swap fill and stroke. So now these shapes have a stroke rather than a fill. And then we want the stroke color to be that cut contour swatch that we made earlier. Now, we don't have to create the swatch again this time.
Remember, we saved it to our library. So I have my libraries window right here. If you don't see it, again, you can go up to Window and come down to Libraries right there. Here is my library window, and this is the cut contour swatch that we saved earlier. So I just click on that, and there you go. It is applied, and we know that all those special settings are already saved in the swatch, so we don't need to go through that detailed menu again. Okay, so then I'm going to lock this layer so I don't accidentally change my cut lines. I'm going to turn on my artwork layer just to make sure that everything lines up, and it does. And then I'm going to lock my artwork layer so I don't accidentally change it. Then we're going to turn on our bleed layer. We want to select everything on the bleed layer, come up to Object on our top menu, and then drop down to Path and go to Offset Path. And it remembered my input from the last file, which was 0.025. Again, we want this to be 1/4 inch, just 0.25 inches, but because I'm at 1/10 scale, that makes that 0.025 inches. Then I click OK. And now if we zoom in, you can see here that we have a cut line that is that 100% magenta stroke, that swatch that we set up. We also have the color that goes a little bit past the cut line to create a bleed so that we don't have any white edges on the plotted vinyl. And once we have that done, we're really good to go. The only last thing I'm going to do is use my artboard tool, come up here to this menu here on the top left, and select Fit to Artwork Bounds. And now it will fit the artwork to the size of the graphics that we've set up. And that right there is our print-ready cut contour file that contains all the graphics needed for this partial wrap that you see here on our template, our design file. So now it's only one file that we need to send over to print. So I would go ahead and save this. We're here in our print files folder, and let's see, I'm going to name this, the last one we named logo cut contour 10%. I'm going to name this, let's name it graphics kit. Cut contour 10%. And go ahead and save PDF. And now, as you can see, we have these two files that we've just created. The logo one, this was just our tester to go through the process of setting up the cut contour line and the bleed. But really, the file that we would send off to print now is our graphics kit file. This is the nested file with all the graphics we need. This is now ready to send off to print. You can order this on WePrintWraps.com under either Avery Cut Contour or 3M Cut Contour. Just enter the dimensions of your file, which I can see right down here on the bottom left, 158 inches by 51.8 inches. I would just enter that in on the website, upload this file, and then it is good to print. And so as you can see, it's actually very easy to set up a cut contour file. The first time you do it, you will have to do those extra steps of setting up that the special swatch. But like I said, once you've done it once, if you followed along with me here in this video, save it to your libraries. You never have to do that step again. And then it makes the rest of this really quick. And once you get used to this, you can do an entire contour cut setup within just a minute or two. It becomes very second nature to you. And as you can see, it's really not that difficult. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you found this helpful, and we'll see you in the next video.